Well, the day has finally come, and yes, it was expected, but it is nonetheless a huge moment because, as you said, nothing like this has ever happened before. Remember, we still don't know the charges that will be levelled against Donald Trump because the indictment is still sealed, but there are reportedly at least 24 charges to be read to him next week. And remember, this is only one of the criminal cases out against him. There are at least 3 others, but because this is the first one out of the gate and because it's Donald Trump, it's all anyone here is talking about.
Truly historic, major breaking news.
Donald Trump, now the first former president to face criminal charges in history.
He will go before a judge. He will be fingerprinted.
The NYPD is on high alert this morning in case of potential demonstrations.
It's the news that New York and the country was bracing for. For the first time in American history, a former president has been indicted on criminal charges. And though the announcement was expected, it's nonetheless seismic in its significance, potentially shaking up the presidential race in 2024, where Mr. Trump is the leading Republican candidate. It all centres around his alleged involvement in payments made to this woman, the adult film actress Stormy Daniels, who was photographed alongside then reality TV star Donald Trump at a celebrity golf tournament in California in 2006. The two had dinner, and after that, she alleges, they returned to Trump's penthouse suite, where things became more intimate.
And you had sex with him?
Yes.
An allegation Mr. Trump has always denied, but one that Stormy Daniels has stood by on numerous occasions.
You were 27, he was 60. Were you physically attracted to him?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Did you want to have sex with him?
No. But I didn't say no. I'm not a victim. I'm not.
It was entirely consensual?
Oh, yes.
After various unsuccessful attempts to sell her story, Miss Daniels eventually finds what she thinks is the ideal opportunity, just ahead of the 2016 election, when then candidate Trump was riding high in the polls.
Michael, is Mr. Trump...
Enter Michael Cohen, Trump's lawyer, who quickly steps in and agrees to pay Miss Daniels $130,000. Hush money, she claims, in exchange for the rights to her story and a non-disclosure agreement to prevent her from speaking about it in the future.
The porn star, the president, and the payout.
But of course, the salacious details never did remain under wraps. The story leaked in 2018, and Cohen eventually admitted to making the payment to Miss Daniels. And having been criminally convicted and sentenced for that and other offences, he was only too happy to tell the world who he claimed made him do it.
First of all, nothing at the Trump Organization was ever done unless it was run through Mr. Trump. He directed me to make the payments. He directed me to become involved in these matters.
I never directed him to do anything wrong. Whatever he did on his own. He's a lawyer.
Fine, except for the fact Mr. Trump had paid Mr. Cohen for the money that Cohen paid to Stormy Daniels. And it's those payments, 11 checks that were made out to Mr. Cohen in 2017, that likely form the basis of the case against Trump now in New York. Now, it may be tawdry, but it isn't a crime to pay hush money. But it is a crime to misclassify it as legal fees. And it's an even more serious crime if prosecutors can prove that those payments were made to aid Donald Trump politically, a so-called campaign finance violation on the eve of the 2016 election.
And the argument is that the money that was given to Stormy Daniels is really a contribution, considered a contribution to his campaign. What does that mean? It means that, well, if I give money to Stormy Daniels will not speak, and that will help me, Donald Trump, with my campaign and elevate me forward.
But the prosecution faces multiple hurdles. Trump's lawyers say the time limit to try this case has long passed. In addition, it's not clear New York state prosecutors have the authority to bring the more serious election charge. But their biggest hurdle by far is the credibility of their main witness, Michael Cohen.
The main witness in this case is a convicted felon who has lied in the past. That is going to be a huge problem going forward, even if they get past the other hurdles.
They took the word of a proven liar, a convicted felon, and a disbarred lawyer, all the same person, believe it or not.
That was Donald Trump speaking about Mr. Cohen at a rally in Texas last week. The former president was apparently taken by surprise at his indictment yesterday and immediately lashed out on his Truth Social platform, saying the Democrats have lied, cheated and stolen in their obsession with trying to get Trump. But now they've done the unthinkable, indicting a completely innocent person in an act of blatant election interference.
They're trying to destroy Donald Trump because they fear him at the ballot box.
Republicans rallied behind him, epitomised by an almost tearful Lindsey Graham.
This is going to destroy America. We're going to fight back at the ballot box. We're not going to give in.
Fighting talk. And remember, Trump's already called for protests when he's charged in New York. That is now set to happen next Tuesday, when, for the very first time, the world will witness a former and perhaps future American president enter a court to be criminally charged. Well, Donald Trump has been told to surrender himself to the Manhattan District Attorney at 2:15 next Tuesday, where he will be fingerprinted and have his mug shot taken. And then the big question, will he walk through the building into the courthouse there behind me, or will he choose to take the so-called perp walk along that road there, presumably waving to his supporters as he goes, and then make his own way up the steps and into the courthouse building there? Let's wait and see. Two other quick points. If he is convicted, it will not necessarily stop Donald Trump from standing for president. He will still be able to go ahead and do that, and nor, if he is convicted, will it necessarily mean that he will face jail time. But he could.
Thanks, Siobhan. Well, I'm joined now by Jill Wine-Banks, who was one of the prosecutors at the US Justice Department during the Watergate scandal. So we know he's indicted, but we'll get the actual charges on Tuesday. What will you be looking out for?
I'll be looking to see what the counts are. It's reported that there are up to 34 counts, and I'm not sure how they actually got to that. It could be a combination of charging him with misdemeanors for each check that was written and a felony for each check, plus some conspiracies. Plus, it could be more than Stormy Daniels. It could also involve Karen McDougal and the payment that was made by David Pecker's company to keep her story in a catch and kill scenario where he paid her to keep the story out of the paper. So it'll be interesting to see what precise charges and whether the felony upgrade from just a false business record is based on a tax violation by him or on a campaign finance violation at the federal level or at the state level. There are a number of possibilities. And this is a crime that has been prosecuted before in the U.S., not against a former president, though.
Yes. Now we've seen him and his team already discrediting one of the key witnesses, Michael Cohen, his former lawyer, convicted himself, disbarred as a lawyer. Would you want to go into a criminal case with your star witness being somebody like that?
Absolutely. I mean, it's not the ideal situation, but I am someone who has prosecuted white-collar crime and, of course, the Watergate case against the top aides to President Nixon, who, by the way, was an unindicted co-conspirator in that case and who should have been indicted as soon as he resigned. So it was a mistake not to. But yes, in those kinds of cases, the witnesses are not innocent bystanders. It's not a bank robbery where someone says, well, I was just standing in the bank when I saw the gunman pull out his gun and demand money. No, this is a case where the only people who can be witnesses are participants in the crime, co-conspirators. Michael Cohen went to jail for part of the crime that will be brought against Donald Trump. And he has been very credible, I think, since he turned against Donald Trump, since he agreed to stop lying for him and to cooperate. So in all these cases, you just say to the jury, I, as the prosecutor, did not pick this witness. The person who picked him is the defendant. He hired him as his lawyer. He took his advice. He worked with him.
Now, you mentioned,
that's how
you mentioned the Nixon scandal. And you know, the contrast is stark, isn't it? I mean, you know, Nixon wasn't indicted. He was allowed to live out his life. And perhaps that was because of the political considerations of keeping America together, of the damage to the nation from seeing a former president dragged through, you know, a criminal case like that. I mean, do you think there is any argument that those sorts of considerations should be brought to bear today with Trump?
I didn't think they should be brought to bear during Watergate, and I certainly don't think so now. It is unprecedented because, unfortunately, we did not indict Richard Nixon, which would have been a precedent. But it's also unprecedented that a president or former president would commit the acts that are alleged in this case and in all the other pending cases in Georgia and at the federal level. So I don't think that there's anything worse than prosecuting. The only thing worse is not prosecuting someone who has violated the law. No one is above the law, and he should be prosecuted if the facts align with the law, as they seem to based on publicly available information. He is, of course, presumed innocent until the case is produced in court, till the evidence is before a jury.
Jill Wine-Banks, thank you very much indeed.